Journey Through Parenthood with Martina Bills.
Brought to you by Southern Ohio Medical Center. Very good things are happening here.
Good Monday morning, everyone. I'm Martina Bills. Thanks for joining us here on Journey Through Parenthood on the WSAZ Now desk. Well, this morning it is fast approaching flu season, RSV season. That's what we are talking about today, because RSV season, I know, is typically one that you think of those young little babies. I know that when I think of RSV, I think of, pictures on social media of friends who say, pray for my baby, they're sick. But RSV can really affect people of any age with really more so common cold symptoms. And now there are several different vaccines available to help curb the severity of RSV. So we're talking to Dr. Matthew Weimer with Valley Health Systems this morning about those vaccines and see if they can help you and your family.
The CDC estimates that somewhere around 6,000 to 10,000 people over the age of 60 to 65 die every year from RSV. And so while we don't always think about it as a virus that is of significant concern, it is. And the fact that we have some new vaccines and therapeutics to help prevent and reduce the severity of RSV is a really incredible advancement for medicine.
Yeah, and I know that I feel like during flu season, I end up seeing on social media babies hospitalized with RSV, but it isn't just those babies that are the concern, like you mentioned. Talk about what vaccines are going to be available relatively soon and for which of those age groups.
Yeah, so there are two new vaccines that are coming out that are actually available now and will be available at Valley Health Systems any day. They are for individuals aged 60 years and older who have certain conditions, and it's the kinds of conditions that you typically would think about causing some increase in risk. Things like chronic lung disease, like COPD, heart disease, like congestive heart failure, or diabetes, immune system disorders. There's a list, and I would encourage individuals to talk to their healthcare provider about whether or not it's recommended for them, and if it's safe and recommended, I would encourage folks to get it. One of the two new vaccines is also FDA approved for pregnant individuals between 32 and 36 weeks gestation. And the evidence for that reflects some benefit to the fetus, to the baby, through mom's immunity. And so we are starting to hear, some interest in that as well. The FDA has approved that particular indication for one drug, and we're waiting for the CDC's vaccine panel to come out with an official recommendation, hopefully in the next couple of weeks.
So does that work along the lines of when the baby's born, that protection carries over to when the baby is born and the mother's getting the protection as well?
Exactly. Yes, that's exactly right. So it's going to protect both. And again, with these things, it's not always 100% protective. It can't completely eliminate the possibility, but it also would be expected to reduce the severity of RSV. And so maybe somebody who's vaccinated, if it's appropriate, would have more of a mild cold as opposed to something like pneumonia or something more serious where they could end up in the hospital.
And what about, you mentioned the monoclonal antibody vaccine or monoclonal antibody for RSV as well. Talk about that, because that is one that can really protect those babies that we do see in those social media posts, like I mentioned, that it just makes you so sad to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have had a therapy for certain premature newborns to protect against RSV for a number of years. That's a monthly treatment for several months through the season. This new monoclonal antibody is really going to be recommended pretty broadly. So without getting too much into the details, most newborns and young infants who are born during or at such a time that they're going to be very young during RSV season through the late fall and through the winter will be advised to get this treatment. And it's not a vaccine, it's a monoclonal antibody. So think of it as that protection that your body typically makes when you get a vaccination and you sort of kickstart your immune system to protect against something. This is giving you antibodies that are protective, ideally through the season or through the better part of the season. And so what we would see is a significant reduction in severe RSV in infants and young children who receive that treatment. And so again, it's an important conversation for parents and guardians to have with their family medicine or pediatric provider.
And Dr. Weimer, I think this is always a good idea to remind people, or this time of year it is, to remind people just how important it is to really be cautious around those tiny newborns, especially during flu season, but really anytime, because their immune system is so undeveloped at this point.
Absolutely. For the first several weeks of life, there's risk because the immune system's not fully developed to the point that the infant has good immunity. And so just think about respiratory etiquette. Think about, certainly if you're not feeling well, don't go visit your friend's newborn. If you do happen to sneeze or cough, all the respiratory etiquette that we really learned a lot about during COVID, and I think the public became more aware of. Of course, really good hand washing is always critical. One of the most important things we can do. So following those hand washing guidelines that we've all learned, hopefully, and remember, but also, being mindful to not handle, touch, kiss, hug, your friend's newborn baby, especially when they're in those first, 6 or 8 weeks of life. So your friends and your family, we have to be careful. And so the fewer people that a newborn is exposed to this time of year, frankly, the better, because there are a lot of viruses out there that can be potentially quite dangerous for newborns.
So a lot of good information about RSV vaccines. Typically, RSV is thought of as an illness that really affects those tiny little babies. But as Dr. Matthew Weimer with Valley Health pointed out, it really can severely affect an older generation. So that's why one of those new vaccines is available for people 60 years and older who are in high-risk categories. Maybe they have COPD or heart disease. So obviously, talk to your doctor about that to see if you're eligible for that new RSV vaccine. And then the one that is really, making those headlines right now is for pregnant women between 32 and 36 weeks gestation. They can get the new RSV vaccine, and that is going to help their baby's immunity once they are born, especially if those babies are really born during that flu vaccine or flu season, which is kind of pretty much upon us here right now. But it really peaks late fall and early winter. And something Dr. Weimer pointed out, really, if you are around a newborn or an infant this time of year, heading into the higher flu season, really just keep that respiratory etiquette in mind that everyone kind of learned during the COVID-19 pandemic. Hand washing, if you're sick, don't go around a newborn, and really keep things in mind. You do want to meet your friend's baby or your new, family member, but keep that baby's health in mind, and really for the older generation as well. Here on Journey Through Parenthood, you can always reach out to me, and if you want to send a story idea, you can find me on our webpage, WSAZ.com, and you can click on the Journey Through Parenthood link, and right there you can see all of our other Journey Through Parenthood segments, and then there's a submission form over here on the right. If you have a story idea you'd like to see covered, you can find that on our website, WSAZ.com. You can also find me on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can send me story ideas or just follow along that way. We're here on the WSAZ Now desk every Monday and Wednesday at 10 o'clock. We hope you have a great start to your week.